How you guys doing? This is an orientation video for Human Anatomy and Physiology 1. And in this video, I hope to answer a bunch of questions that you might have about how to navigate through D2L, lecture questions, lab questions, exam kind of questions. So um, if you go to D2L, you sign in, you go to materials, you go to content. You'll find on the left-hand side, of course, you got your syllabus under course information here, and over the past 10 years, I have students, after exam 1 or 2, they'll come and ask question, how can I be more successful? How can I improve? And so I've collected these questions and answers over 10 years and compiled them and made it available for all students. So this is nice for you. This might be very, very, very helpful. And then the next tab here on the left for study guides for the 4 units. And so these study guides are precisely what you need to know for each unit. Now, be careful, as I mentioned in the syllabus, be careful because if you just use this like a piece of homework, then you won't be successful at all. Because you might miss critical things because you're just sort of looking things up and using it as homework, and then you won't really learn or memorize or fully comprehend. So don't use it backwards and just refer back to the syllabus to know exactly how to use these, how you should use these study guides. But anyway, this does give you the range of what you need to know for each unit. Then you click on Unit 1, for example, and you notice here you have Unit PowerPoint 1, 2, and 3. These 3 PowerPoints here are the 3 chapters for what I'm going to test you on. Your test questions will come right out of these 3 handouts. And I also have videos for you, lecture videos for you for each of these handouts. And I may have some videos missing. For example, like for bone, I don't have a lecture video, but for the most part I do, and have videos corresponding with each handout. But even if I don't, it's okay because you still have the handouts and you still have the study guides and so on. But for the most part, I've provided all that stuff for you. So how do I use the handout? Well, you go through, you have your study guide close by, you have your handout, you have your video, and so you just run through the YouTube video that I've made for you, and you just you click through the slides and you study. It's just like you're sitting in class. And there might be a few slides here and there that are maybe not mentioned in the video or in the study guide, and then in those cases you can just kind of sort of skip them. Here, for example, we have levels of organization. So like, well, do I really need to know this? And so you just kind of, you go here, you go up to your study guide, and up here the 6 levels of organization. Yep. So then you know, okay, then I gotta know these few slides right here. And that's kind of how you use it. Now for lecture primarily asks you physiology questions. Like for histology, name the tissue for histology. For lecture on histology, I won't ask you name that tissue, because for lecture we study the physiology. So I may ask you, rather than asking name this tissue, I may ask you, where is this tissue located? Or what is the function of this tissue? That sort of thing. But in lab, For lab, we generally only ask one question, which is, what is this called? What is this called? What is this called? Name this name. What is this bone called? What is this muscle called? What is this thing called? For the most part. Now, we do have a little bit of physiology, like name this action, name this action. We may have those kind of questions for lab 2, but definitely for lecture. But for the most part, it's what is this feature called? What is this bone called? What is this bump called? What is this tissue called? That's for the most part what the kind of questions that you'll expect to find in lab. And then in lecture, it would be, how does this work? How do these two bones articulate? How does this muscle work? How does it that sort of thing? Function versus anatomy. Anatomy is for the lab portion. The physiology is for the lecture portion. All right. So for Unit 1, we have our this is lab. So for lecture, we have our handouts. My lecture exam questions come directly out of these here. And you got your videos, and then you got your lecture study guides. For lab, we go down to lab unit 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's lab unit 1. We got some more. It's like being in lab. I have 3 labs here for you. It's like being in lab. It's like actually coming in for lab. And I give you a terminology list. And here I give you actual microscopic photos. It's sort of like the lab manual, but it's hundreds of photos, as if you're in labs, taking slide by slide by slide, selecting, taking the slides out and looking at them. And so I actually make a list for you, and these are your answers. These are the answers to the questions that you will be asked for each of your lab practicals. I mean, this would be for lab practical 1. This is how you would answer one answer for one of the questions. These are the only, so this makes it easy, because although in lecture I may ask you, you may have to study a little bit harder for lecture, because, well, he could ask it like this or like this or like that, so you really have to understand and comprehend for lecture. But for lab, all you really need to do is just memorize a list of stuff. What is this thing called? What is this thing called? What is this called? What is this called? What is this called? And so these are literally the only answers that you'll ever have to give for Lab Practical 1. I have it listed down for you. Of course, the hard part is that there's a bunch of them, and the words are crazy. I've never heard of this word, simple squamous epithelium. But that is why we have the lab manual. All right. And so you see this tissue. This is the name. Look at this tissue. This is the name. But the video that I make for you explains, what does simple mean? What does cuboidal mean? What does epithelium mean? What does squamous mean? And so on. So if we go to the all you got to do is just, I give you the links also, but all you got to do really is just search Marcus Gabrawi and hit enter, and you'll find, it'll be a little bit different from you, and you'll find a whole slew of YouTube videos, lecture videos, and lab videos that you could use. These are, Anatomy 1 and 2 and General Biology. If you but I give you the links on D2L. So here, for example, is, what's that tissue called? So this is like being in lab. From a bird's eye view. And then these actual slides are the same slides that I provide for you on D2L, where you have this right here, labeled microscopic photos of model. I've taken hundreds of photos of slides of tissues, and then I've made a video for you, and so you got your lab question here, and then look, this video actually works for lecture and for lab, because for lecture I actually tell you, I provide for you the location and the function too. Where might this be? And so on. So make sure to go through those lab videos as well. These are very, 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 very useful for you. You got your terminology list, so you know exactly what the answers to the questions are going to be. You actually know the question and you know the answer. Right? We give you we give you both. All right, so I think that should answer those kind of questions. Um, as far as announcements, um, I will, I'll be making announcements, so make sure to have D2L close to you. But rather than constantly clicking on D2L and seeing if there's any new announcements, you can actually just go to communications, go to announcements, go to more actions, push down there, go to notifications, and here is where you can customize your push notifications. Over here, you can say like, okay, well, every time there's an updated announcement, I want an email. Every time there's content changed on D2L, or grades are released, and so you can configure your how D2L will work for you. Um, so that's under announcements. Um, Also, and then in assessments, you can check your grades here. Quizzes, this is where you'll take all your quizzes, and that's pretty much all I can. That's pretty much all I can think of. Um, so, and then also we provide a open source Stacks textbook for you, so you don't even need to purchase any books. It's online, open source. It's very good. You can use that in conjunction with handouts and my study guide and my YouTube videos. Um, Everything that's definitely plenty of resources for you to be successful in the course. All right, I think that should answer a lot of your questions. Your lecture exams and your lab practicals will probably be mostly D2L style. Well, they'll be timed, that kind of thing, and so you think, well, that'll be easy to cheat. Well, they're timed, and there's also a huge pool of questions, so it makes it more difficult. And if you're just honest when you're studying in your studies, you'll find that you'll be very, very, very successful. And rather than trying to figure out how I could cheat, it'd be a lot better idea to just put in your mind that I'm going to be honest in my when I'm studying, and you'll end up. I assure you, it'll be a lot less stressful, and you'll have a lot less anxiety if you just study the way you should, and try to be go into this thing with the intention of being honest. But your lecture and lab also could have a little bit of take home. We might Zoom a little bit, where you'll come on Zoom. You'll log in, and you'll do a little bit of like oral exam. So you got to be on your toes. And more on that later. I'll give you announcements on that. But so yeah, I hope this helps, and just I can't stress enough. Watch the YouTube videos. They'll explain everything, and they go through everything as if you're sitting in lecture and as if you're sitting in lab. Um, exactly, it'll be exact. It's the exact same thing. All right, thank you guys very much. Thanks for watching, and study well.